President Trump once again going after the World Health Organization, this time over its handling of the pandemic. Trump accusing the organization of being biased in favor of China. He's also threatening to cut off funding permanently to the WHO if changes are not made in 30 days. Here's the president earlier today.
Basically, they have to clean up their act. They have to do a better job. They have to be much more fair to other countries, including the United States, or we're not going to be involved with them anymore. We'll do it a separate way.
Dana, I wanted to ask you, as long as there's no train in the background, what happens if there's another unknown pathogen, and I think that's likely at some point. Is it a good idea for the United States to not be a player in the World Health Organization?
Well, I think that the president is doing something that he has done before, like he did with NATO, which is using America's incredible and extensive influence to force change at an organization in order to have the credibility of the United States to be able to be there to help you. I think that we all know that it's important for us to have public health information in a way that we can share, but obviously there was something extremely wrong that happened between the WHO and China's communication and their communication with the world, and I think getting to the bottom of that is number one. Two, I don't think that the president is saying you will never get American support again. He's saying you have 30 days to come up with some substantive changes, and then we will continue to be a part of it. And if you don't want to do that, like, that's fine. Like, we'll walk away, we'll try something else. But I think that he's just being smart and figuring out a way to leverage the United States. As to China, recently said, I think it was yesterday, said that they would donate $2 billion to the efforts to help developing nations around the world. Well, $2 billion, that's like 1/1000th of what we just already spent in our own country to deal with coronavirus. So that's kind of like chump change, China. So if you want to have influence, you're going to have to pony up a lot more than that, starting with opening up your labs and whatever else you have, other information, to get information to people in the United States and around the world, because we do have to protect ourselves from this. We know it will happen again. History does repeat itself. Happened 100 years ago. We have to be prepared for the future.
Judge Pirro, I think that Dana's right. The president may be making a strategic move, but it's also a political move in the sense that I think he's pointing a finger at China by pointing at the WHO. So politically it has power, but in terms of policy, do you think it's a good move to give China the leadership position at the WHO?
I think that it is a brilliant move. I think it's time that the WHO cleaned up its act. I think 316,000 dead people around the world is reason enough, or at least 316,000 reasons, to pull American money out of an organization that could have helped us and could have prevented many of these deaths. Let's make no mistake. This organization said that there was no human-to-human transmission. This organization was being lauded China for instances where they had travel restrictions within their own country. That's crazy. Dana is right. We have to leverage this like we leveraged NATO. You're not going to take our money, put not only the United States, but the world at risk. It's time that if there's American money, there's truth and transparency behind it. And when Taiwan came out and said there's human-to-human transmission, and China said absolutely not, we should have listened to them, and the president did. So this is the way he handles it.
So, Jesse, Okay. Thanks, Judge. So, Jesse, what happens if the next pandemic comes out of Africa or Latin America? Who gives the United States the data, advice on how to deal with it if it hits our shores?
He said that he wants to reform it, and if they're not going to be reformed, we'll form a new organization. But you know that, Juan. This is what I don't like, how the media frames this. So I read the New York Times today, and the New York Times says, Trump is doing this to deflect blame. So see what they're doing? Republicans are always deflecting blame. Why is that? Because the media is always blaming Republicans for everything, right? So whenever a Republican does anything that doesn't have anything to do with the thing they're being blamed for at that very moment, they are deflecting blame. So like Barack Obama can go after Fox. He can go after Putin. He can go after Islamophobia. He's never deflecting blame. Only Republicans can do it. They do that with also the word distraction, right? So Trump is distracting from the pandemic by going after the WHO. No, actually, the media wants everybody to focus on one thing, and Trump is just holding multiple people accountable. That's the game they play.
I see. Well, Greg, you know, it seems to me the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, has been asking for more money. So you think they want a more robust international presence for themselves. Do you think maybe if we take money away from the WHO, we would give it to the CDC?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, the CDC, everybody was wrong. And I think part of the coming battle is going to be the experts who told us what was supposed to be in our best interests, and then the rest of the world who found out they weren't telling the truth. I agree with everything that's been said about NATO and the World Health Organization. America first, which I was critical, and now I realize that it has some benefits. If you believe in the America first way, when somebody screws with you, you have a president that goes out there and settles the score. So he's going to settle the score with the WHO the way he settled the score with NATO. And he's probably going to have to settle the score with China, because even though it wasn't their fault when the virus came out, they covered it up. And we got to settle that score.
Oh, yeah.
All right.